Hey there, Rival fans! We all want to see some of our personal favorite heroes on the Marvel Rivals as soon as possible, right? Today, I want to present you top 10 crazy fun characters concepts from the amazing Marvel Rivals community. Some of them are exceptional, and I hope that developers will take some inspiration from them or even fully implement them in the game. Without further ado, let's start with the Apocalypse. According to this concept, Apocalypse should be the Vanguard, and this is pretty amazing. With difficulty 3 stars, his primary attack is spiked maces. Turn your hands into spiked maces and bash the enemy heads. Well, sounds really amazing and must look pretty cool in the game as well. The next one is a concentrated beam. Fire short range energy beams from your eyes. This one seems like a Superman vibes for me, but also must be really cool to see in the game. So basically, this is a mid-range or even far-range character with a lot of the melee attacks too. This concept is already stunning, but let's jump right to the team-up abilities. Horseman of the Apocalypse. Apocalypse can grant his allies title of the Horseman. First one is Namor, Horseman of War, increased attack speed. The second one is Magneto, Horseman of Death, getting eliminations will heal. Horseman of Famine is the Storm, and she gets the enemy gets slowed with each hit. And the final is the Scarlet Witch, Horseman of Pestilence. Attacks have a bleeding effect. Oh my god, this is just crazy. First of all, just imagine infinite ammo Scarlet Witch, which can also give you bleeding effect. That will be just shredding out all the squishes. Meanwhile, Storm will just destroy all the speed of the enemy team, and then Namor with Magneto will just get insane boost to their basic attacks and abilities. And overall, this will be like a full party, so basically you just need one more healer and strategist, and that will be totally overpowered team with a lot of synergies, and just that will be the meta. So I think this might have a bit of work here, but still pretty amazing concept. So let's jump to the abilities. Death Seed Corruption. Plant a Death Seed into the ground that burst and empowering nearby allies and damaging nearby enemies. Pretty simple for the ultimate, pretty effective. Well, I think it's good for the Vanguard. The next one is a Drill Charge. Hold and charge at the enemy, turning your hand into a massive drill, piercing them. Again, just a fast attack, which might be good. Next one is Unbreakable Defense. Mold your hands into a near indestructible shield, absorbing enemy attacks. Well, as all the Vanguards, just having a basic shield to cover his team. Next one is a Tendril Stab. Extend a mechanical tendril from your arms, stabbing the enemy, poisoning them. Looks pretty interesting, and I think this pretty effective for the Vanguards who usually have less attack than duelists and strategists, so yeah, why not? And the last but definitely not least is a passive, self-automatic manipulation. Become temporarily invincible when only 5% of health is left. You know, this might be way too strong, but it depends on how long is this temporary effect actually goes. If it's like a few seconds, it's still very powerful, but might be a pretty cool mechanic. So let's jump to the next hero. And here we go with the Domino. She is obviously a duelist hero with a 2 stars difficulty. First attack is a Twin Pistols. Fire at enemies with a Domino pair of semi-automatic pistols. Pretty basic, I like it, fits the concept. Team up abilities is a Fortunate Group. When close to Domino, Magic and Storm can borrow her power to do critical damage with their attacks and a brief period of time. So this works with Magic and Storm, and seems like a just basic one, but still pretty strong passive ability. Now go to the ultimate, the Big Boy. The pistols attached together to turn into SMG, dealing critical damage, faster fire rate, and way bigger magazine. I like this one. I also have some strong vibes of the Punisher ultimate here, but still pretty interesting. Next one is a Swift Body. When in the air or after the jump, do a dash that launches Domino forward and ignores incoming damage during it. Dodging ability for the cool and agile Swift hero, pretty amazing. And I know that a lot of people don't really like the concept of dodging something in the hero shooters, but personally I think this is cool. Next one is a deviation. Domino slides forward, dizzying enemies along the way and doing damage. That makes the enemy basic attacks having a high chance of giving 0 damage for a brief period of time. Again, pretty interesting ability with a dizzying effect, with a blindness basically, and this one might be way too strong. It depends on how brief this period of time is actually will be. Next one is a right click attack, and this is a ricochet. While activated, the bullets ricochet. If it's hit targets, the bullets bounces to hit another one. If it's hit the surface, the target close receives reduced damage. Also pretty nice stuff. I think this one is good for the closed locations, some kind of a corridors, maybe some point hold maps and points. So this will be kind of a pretty strong one, and also it would be really interesting to know how much damage the bullet that ricochet actually do. Because if they're the similar damage of the basic attack, that might be way too strong. And finally, the passive. So lucky. Domino has a small chance of ignoring damage done by basic attacks. The chance of this happening increases if her health is low. Again, another one with the dodging stuff. And overall, if we combine all the abilities and the passive, it might be way too strong. But overall, the concept is pretty nice and I like it. Let's jump to the next hero. And oh my, here we go, this is the Mysterio. And from what I see, it's probably gonna be the strategist or the duelist with a difficulty of the 5 stars. First attack is right click, and this is a hallucinogen nozzles. Fire hallucinogens that damage enemies and heal allies. Enemy hit a giant stack of the hypnotize. Enemy hit gain a stack of hypnotize. The right click is a smokescreen. Fire a smokescreen into the area. Enemies inside gain stack of hypnotize and allies inside gain damage reduction. I would say that this one is pretty strong, especially with the damage reduction. It basically makes Mysterio an amazing strategist that not only can disable or debuff his enemies, but also had a pretty interesting buffs on the allies, such a vanguard one. But let's see what the teammate ability is. And this one is Electrokinesis Infusion. Electro can infuse Mysterio smokescreen with electric, causing them to deal damage to the enemies inside. Well, pretty cool. Since we don't have Electro so far in the game, I would say that this might work with Thor or maybe with a Storm for now. Next one is abilities, and this is the ultimate light camera action. After a small channel, Mysterio fills an area with a gas that transforms all enemies and allies into Mysterio. Enemy can attack allies that resemble Mysterio. This one is a pure mayhem, and this makes this character insanely fun. I really like the concept, and this one is just huge one. Definitely would like to see this in the game. Next one is a passive hallucination. Enemies that reach 3 stacks of hypnotize start to hallucinate, seeing distractions and clones of the Mysterio running around for a small period of time. Also pretty neat, but depends on how actually this will work in the game, because it might be way too crazy. If we're gonna see the clones everywhere, especially with the ultimates turned on, that might be way too crazy to even play the match. A left shift is edited in the post. 2 charges. Mysterio vanishes into a small smoke screen, appearing in a forward location within a small smoke screen again. Holding shifts keep Mysterio in place. Seems like the abilities that Loki has with his invisibility, but with a bit of a twist, because smoke screen also have some extra effect on the enemies. And the suggested combo is to use smokescreen and hallucinogen nozzles to heal and cover weakened allies and to confuse enemies, and use edited in the post to teleport, trick enemies gankers, reposition and use light camera action to cause chaos, protecting allies and obscuring enemies. Honestly, this is probably my favorite design so far from all I've seen from the community and from my own. This one is a top tier. I really like this one. And you might see that I added the skull into the Mysterio's mask on the thumbnail, and I honestly would like to see this kind of design for the Marvel Rivals. Now here we go with the concept for actually proved character, who is that Thing from the Fantastic Four, and obviously he's a vanguard with a difficulty of 2 stars. Attack. First one is a rough fists. Swing heavy grubby punches forward. Basically seems like a Hulk to me, so nothing interesting here. Tough Guard. Take a guardian position, take and reduce damage from front-facing attacks. Close range attackers take recoil damage, and this one where the things become interesting for the team. And I really like this concept of a one guard who can actually some kind of deflect the damage to the enemies. We already have a Captain America who has some kind of a similar stuff, but in a bit different version, and this is pretty amazing. So let's jump to the ability. First one is it's a clobbering time. Leap high and forward, then slam the ground, crushing a crater of elevated rubble, knocking away enemies from the epicenter and clothing them in the zone. The thing gained bonus attack speed. So basically, this is just kind of a skill which take your enemy's team to the one place and give you a chance to drop another teammate ultimate on them, or just drop some good damage with bonus attack speed. I like it. Next one is a Banishing Blow. Wind up your next punch and deliver a strong blow that knocks back enemies' hit and stun them after. Also pretty dope, like the design really fits the character. Clear the road. Stomp the ground, causing a line of the elevated rubble, knocking aside enemies in its length. Pretty cool for some clothing of the enemy heroes that are really annoying, and to just, for example, remove one guard from the attacking team for some brief period of time, which might have huge strategic impact on the battle. Next one is a Rock Sandwich. Pick up rocks in both hands and smash them into each other, dealing damage to all enemies in between and stunning them. Again, another stun ability, another interesting concept, which might be pretty hard to actually hit, so I think this one is pretty balanced. And the passive is Unfinished Business. The thing gains bonus damage the longer he's in combat. Also pretty nice one for the one guard, depends on how much this percent of the increased damage actually is. Now anyway, this concept is pretty dope. Now the next one is the Man-Thing. Man-Thing is a pretty interesting character with 300 health and is a strategist for the mortal rivals. First attack is launched thorns as a projectiles, need to reload and then regrows that thorn. Okay, next one is a whole charges of flowers. Man-Thing periodically grows. Throw to attach to the allies to heal over time. Pretty interesting one for the healer, because it's not just abilities that heal your teammate once, but the one that actually give him some extended healing, which I think pretty cool. Now the abilities. First one is passive. Taking damage causes Man-Thing to lose some of his mass. Can't pick up pieces to heal a portion back before they decay. Also pretty interesting one, especially that the strategists are usually targeted by the duelists and ward guards of the enemy team. This might help you to keep yourself going on without the huge protection from your team. Next one is a quick melee that leaves enemy with damage over time. So basically you're just dealing damage with a poisonous effect or something like that. I like the concept, I always like the characters with this kind of effect. The next one is a E ability, and this is a create flowers and the area. The flowers periodically release healing pollen before disappearing. I like this one too because this is an area effect heal, pretty good for the strategist as well. And the next one is the Vines. Vines from a getaway that anyone can walk through to emerge at the designated area. So this seems some kind of a portal from a Doctor Strange abilities, so might be not that unique, but also pretty cool to see how that would actually work in the game. Now, the next ability is a Create Vines that Grow. Snares enemies caught in the growth, vines will scale walls allowing anyone to climb them. Again, the reshaping of the map. Also, pretty interesting and unique concept which is actually works in Marvel Rivals with a destructive environment, and this might be the really cool way to make an amazing 200 IQ big brain plays as a strategist. And ultimate is a created a bog area in a giant AoE around the Man-Thing. Movement abilities cannot be used while in it. Man-Thing has increased regeneration for the duration of the ultimate. I really like this one. This is a huge disadvantage for the enemy team, not that overpowered, but really good against duelists and maybe strategists. So yeah, obviously a really cool design. I would like to see that in the game at some point too. Now coming into the next one, and this one is Howard the Dog. Big freaking gun. This is his primary attack, and after a small windup, the big freaking gun in a minigun-like fashion. I really like the concept of the minigun for the character. This one is pretty dope, so let's jump to the abilities. No nothing else matter. This one is the ultimate for the Howard, and this one, after a small charge up, release a wave of energy. This attack instantly eliminates any opponent at or under half health, but only deals a measly 1 damage if they are above that threshold. This one is amazingly unique and also pretty strong. If combined with your team properly, this can just wipe out the whole enemy team in just a second. So might be way too strong, and maybe half of the health is way too much. Maybe 33% of 25% would fit much better for the balance. The next one is unarmed attack. Fire the mech arms to punch enemies from the far away before returning. I like this one, pretty simple, pretty good. Ducking dash. Charge forward dealing damage and knocking back opponents. Damage taken is slightly reduced while charging. Again, pretty nice and pretty cool ability for the one guard, and I like this one with a huge mecha dog. The next one is the lucky dog. Throw a rubber duck and it bounces along the ground 3 times before exploding. Pretty interesting skill shot, might be really good for the point control maps and also for some payload secure or just pushing the enemies away from your payload. I like this one too. Next one is a space jet module. Hold space to slowly fall. Also pretty nice, not a flying ability, but some kind of a control, especially with a minigun basic attack that might work pretty smooth. And finally is the passive, warning unstable. Due to mech's crappy nature, upon being defeated, the mech will explode, damaging and knocking back opponents. You know, I think this one with a ducking dash, which is a charge, might be pretty cool if you have one guard that dying and you just can sacrifice yourself to deal some good damage for the enemies. So overall, Howard the Duck seems like a really amazing hero and I really like this concept. Now jumping in with the Vulture. And he's pretty amazing character from the Sinister Six. Vulture has difficulty of 2 stars and is a duelist most likely. So let's see what his attacks are. First one is a Steel Feathers, fire burst of 3 steel feathers. Pretty cool, seems like some kind of a copy of the Nyata from the Overwatch, but I like this one. Fan of the Feathers, fire fan of 3 steel feathers. So basically it's similar to the first attack, but it seems like it flies into the cone figure, which could be good against the few heroes fight at the same time. I like this one. Next one is a team-up ability, Hunter's Instinct. Kraven allows Vulture to see any enemy before 20% health. So basically it's not working in the game because the Kraven and as well as the Vulture not in the game already, but seems pretty cool. So basically wall hacking ability for the enemies which are below 20% health. And for the Vulture as a squishy duelist, it's a pretty interesting concept because he just can fly around and kill the enemies who are almost dead already. So what's the abilities? First one is ultimate, Youth Transfer. Vulture dives bombs into the enemies, the first enemy hit is grabbed and taken into the air. Vulture drains their health over time. Pretty interesting, sounds like a crazy strong ability for control some of the enemy team members, especially with draining their health over time. I'm really curious how much health and how long this effect will be active. The next one is a passive, Relentless Scavenger. Gain a damage buff for a few seconds after killing an enemy. Pretty simple, pretty cool, again fits the hero pretty amazing. Barrel Roll, 2 charges. Vulture evasively barrel rolls in the direction he is currently moving. Again, cool dashing ability, which is always appreciated for the duelists and especially for the flying ones, so I like this one. And the last ability is the Aerial Ally. Pick up an ally for a period of time carrying them into the air. The ally can jump to the exit, and both Vulture and the ally can continue to use abilities and attacks during this. Whew, pretty cool. I already can see a lot of cool synergies that might be used during the flight with the Vulture, and this might be really strong. And suggested combo. Use Steel Feathers and Fan of the Feathers to kill low health enemy to gain Relentless Scavenger. Avoid damage with a barrel roll and swoop into enemy lines with a Youth Transfer to separate a key target, draining them of their life. Again, pretty amazing concept. Vulture is one of the coolest heroes from the Sinister Six, so I would like to see him in the game at some point. The next hero is obviously targeting the zone of the Jeff the Landshark because it's not really known hero, and this is a Sltapstick with a difficulty of 5 stars. First, his attacks is Electroplasma Blast. Fire a constant beam of electroplasma to damage enemies and charge electroplasm. Watch out, it may overheat. Become electroplasm hits can blast while in brute form. That's pretty interesting, but what the ectoplasm actually is, we will just discover it a bit later. So Charged Up is a passive and use Electroplasm Blast to gather Electroplasm and activate brute form. The second attack is a Walk Around and Find Out. Swing your cartoon mullet horizontally to damage foes and slightly move them. Range and damage are increased while in a brute form. Pretty interesting, but still, let's see what we have next. Team Up ability is a God of Hammers. Thor can infuse Sltapstick with the Thunder, temporarily giving both of his attacks chain damage and making his main one charge Electroplasm faster. I really like the concept of the bonding of characters with hammers as their weapons. And next one is abilities. Fire in the Hole as an ultimate. Summon a giant rolling cartoon bomb that knocks back opponents and explodes upon reaching max distance or hitting a surface. That seems kind of a Junkrat ability for me, ultimate ability, and honestly I always like the design, but seems like this one won't be controllable, so not sure how effective it will be. It probably will be nice on the point hold maps, but for the other maps it might be a bit too weak. So the next one is This Means War. Enter brute form for a duration depends on how much electroplasm you have stored. While in a brute form, damage taken is halved and your main attacks are buffed. So basically this is just a huge buff for the character and pretty simple but pretty effective. Next one is a Camoed Dingus. Deploy a Slapstick clone that moves on his own and only uses main attacks. The clone gets brute form when Slapstick does. Pretty interesting, but might be too strong if the clone has the similar attack rate and attack damage as a main version. So might be good to just reduce the damage and maybe increase the damage taken by the clone. Otherwise that's just an extra team member and it will be just too strong. So yeah, overall the concept is interesting, especially for the not really known hero. The cartoonish style is also pretty dope. Well, maybe this hero will get a place in the roster in some point. Now the next one is a Wasp. Wasp is a duelist with a difficulty of 2 stars, and first her attack, Stingers. Fire a pair of quick balls from both fists. Pretty nice. Team up ability is a Chit Chat. Wasp and Ant-Man can sense enemies on each other's side, revealing them to each other through the obstacles. Pretty cool synergy based on the actual characters' relationships in the Marvel Universe. I like this. Next one is abilities. Shrinking Ray. Fire a laser that temporarily disables and shrinks the target. Shrunken units can't fight nor use the skills. Well, this is basically a temporary disable of any enemy character. And this might be way too strong, especially since we don't know the duration of this one and the cooldown. Next one is a Minimize. Shrink down until unable to get hit, but also unable to use Stingers or Shrink Ray. Press against to unshrink. This one is pretty strong ability for avoiding damage or escaping tricky situations, and basically make the Wasp invulnerable, which is way too strong in my opinion. Next one is a Zigzag Zap. Dash forward in a zigzag motion and stun the enemies. Well, pretty nice, but pretty simple again. Sensory State. Enter a sensory state to sense everyone around. Including the passive ability, this one seems way too similar, and I would like to see some different abilities for the or some different attack for the right click. Next one is a passive, Nimble. Shrink and explode swift wings that grant movement speed. Well, just movement speed is also nice. Also seems like ability of the Luna. And there we go for another passive ability with the Telepathic Signal. When is a sensory state, hold space to focus on the enemy and reveal them to allies. Feels like a strong strategist vibes here. I really like the concept of some kind of fused roles in the game, so why not? Well, overall this concept is not that strong to me, but has some pretty interesting elements. And last but definitely not least is the Ghost. Ghost is a duelist with a difficulty of 3 stars. First attack is DDoS. Fire a high damage but very short range stream of the electricity. Pretty strong but pretty short range. I like that. This reminds me the shotgun of the Punisher, which is pretty nice. Next one is a Quantum Channeling. Charge and release a quantum energy shot more effective at the medium range. full charge applies Quantic Corruption. So as we see so far, Ghost will be a short or mid-range character, which seems interesting for the duelist. Next one is a team-up ability. First one is Energy from Beyond. Ghost can infuse the Winter Soldier's cybernetic arm with Quantic Energy, making his abilities deal damage over time for a limited duration. Works pretty well, might be way too strong, but well, this is about the fun. Next one is the abilities. First one is the ultimate, Gathering Intel. Release a barrage of quantum energy tendrils around you, applying the Quantic Corruption and anti-heal to all the enemies hit. Seems like a very powerful control ability, and I like this one because we need more interesting controls for the cool strategic plays. Next one is a Quantum Positioning. Throws out a repositioning device upon hitting the enemies on a surface to teleport it. Interesting skill shot to just get closer to your enemies or avoid some tricky situations. Pretty amazing for the character. Next one is a Backdoor Entrance. Become invisible and move faster for a limited time. When ability has released a blast of the Quantic Corruption, and ability cooldown partially refunded on the elimination. Well, I see that this is kind of a Sombra inspiration from the Overwatch, and I think this one is a bit better than the Sombra. So I would like to see this kind of ability in the game as well. Next one is a Data Theft. After elimination of the opponent, disguise as Sam. Cannot attack or use abilities. Doing so breaks the disguise. Honestly, this looks like a spy concept from Team Fortress 2, but without the ability to attack enemies at least once. But still, I think this might be really strong for some situations, and also again a pretty interesting concept of the ability. And finally, the passive, Phantom Illness. Enemies apply the Quantic Corruption, take a minor damage over time, and are seen through walls by you and your team. And even though the seeing enemies through walls might sound way too strong, again, we just have to remember that this character is a short-range character and actually need to get close to you to apply this effect, so it's pretty balanced in my point of view. So yeah guys, this is all the heroes I have for you for today. Tell me who are your favorite one and what hero you want to see in the game as soon as possible. And if you like the video, be sure to subscribe and hit that like button. See you next time.